football, the red zone is where a team has to make small adjustments to ensure victory. As you approach retirement, you also need to make small adjustments to ensure success. This is the Red Zone Retirement Program with registered investment advisor and enrolled agent John Mears of Mears Money Management.
This week on Red Zone Retirement Program, Coach and I are going to talk about Social Security claim strategies because they're complicated, Coach. They get a little confusing out there. So we're going to try to keep this not too crazy and not get people to give them headaches over this, but it's really important, right? So we're going to talk about the different kind of claiming strategies you might experience from different kind of family scenarios. There is a ton of claiming strategies from Social Security, so you certainly need to work with somebody who understands it. But yet it seems like very few get used, right? So it's like some basic ones kind of get covered. We've talked about some of those in the past. So we'll kind of do a refresher on a couple of those, and then we'll talk about some more obscure ones and see if we can help some folks out with that. How you doing, my friend? You doing all right?
Doing well. Yeah. This is always an interesting topic. I always tell people with Social Security, this is why we have to know as much information about you as we possibly can, because there's stuff where I have been working with people and you find out a year or two later that they've made a decision in which they may have felt was pretty benign, but a decision that was affected by the fact that we didn't know enough information. One of these can be in the Social Security claiming area, because there are so many different ways to skin the cat. I always tell people, as complicated as it is, I consider myself a pretty intelligent guy. I'm still always having to refer to I have a Social Security manual. I have a whole manual on a bunch of different strategies. I'm always having to refer to that thing because people bring up something and go, let me check that out. I'll get back to you. But it's pretty interesting. There's a lot of things that people don't know. So hopefully today, we'll probably get into the weeds a little bit, and we'll try not to, but at least you can have an idea. This thing is a possibility to look into, to do your own investigation or ask your own advisor.
Well, and if we do get the weeds too much, we're going to put up the link there. Or you can check the link, in the show notes below, but we'll put up the thing on the screen. Go to bookachatwithjohn.net and have a conversation with him about this. Bookachatwithjohn.net. And again, check the links below in the show descriptions to get onto the calendar. All right. And that's if we don't even get into it. I could throw you a curveball here, Coach, and just see how on your game you are, with the whole windfall or elimination protection thing that they just changed. Right.
Yeah. So the GPO and the WEP, those have been now eliminated with the, what do they call that? The Social Security
Fairness Act?
Fairness Act.
Yeah.
Fairness Act. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they just passed this like in the last few weeks as we're recording this. Yeah. So, and that does affect a lot of people, typically teachers and law enforcement, firefighters.
My understanding, Coach, is this it's a good thing for those people, right? So a lot of the changes there, and maybe we'll do an episode, we'll break it down on that a little bit more, but basically it's a good thing there because you were having your Social Security, if you worked another job besides the one you had, like as a firefighter, we'll just give them the love because they deserve it. Maybe that money was being cut down at that alternate job because of the Windfall Protection Act. This will allow them to get that money back, which is great. The downside is it's going to put more strain on the Social Security system for about the tune of about 1 million people. So that could, they're also saying that could, factor into that whole 2033 running out of money conversation. So.
Yeah, it definitely will put a strain on the system. It will. I do think that I've ran into this where with the windfall provision, forget what the A was for. My mind just went blank. I know the GPO is a government pension offset, windfall elimination provision. So that's what the two were. So those two, I've seen this happen where people have had their Social Security reduced significantly, even though they may have been a teacher. My wife is a teacher, so she knows people in this area where they had like a regular career for 20 years, had Social Security, and then they went on to have maybe 20 more years as teachers and then retired. They had it reduced. Now that
Social Security one got dropped because of that.
Yes. And so there was some frustration because they paid into the system. Now there was a point where with Social Security where you would be able to get your full Social Security, but I believe you had to have your full 30 years in, and then you could have something else, the government pension after that. That's a long time. That's truly true full careers. So I do think there's a possibility for this. Now, my wife never really worked significantly in the private sector, so it won't affect her. But I did see this affect many people, and a lot of people, firefighters I knew, they have second jobs because they have time off.
Yeah.
and they have time for second jobs with other stuff. And so this will be something that'll be very, very helpful to them. Yes.
It'd be interesting. So they just signed the thing. There's not a lot of detail. What a shock. They did something and there's not a lot of detail around it. But we'll find out more. And if some more information comes out about exactly how it's going to work, I'm sure we can do another
People are getting big refunds. It goes back to 2024, January.
They are going to look back. Yeah, that's true as well.
So because of the look back, there are people who will be getting checks in the mail.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
That's kind of nice.
Could be interesting. So we'll see how it all plays out a little later on. But for now, we'll focus on today's conversation. But I did want to throw that curveball just to see how you were doing. So good job. Yes. You don't have to do whoop-de-doo or up downs. So you don't have to do those. I'll take those away from you. All right. So let's start with something simple. We don't see it as much anymore, but if you are in a household with a single income, earner, right? So one person. So I'll set this up for you this way, Coach. When we were researching doing this topic, I went on, I think Reddit or whatever, and I looked, and I was looking at people having a conversation about Social Security claiming. And it was hilarious to watch people go, you can't get Social Security unless you have worked the 40 quarters, right? Which that is correct. You have to work minimum 10 years, 40 quarters, blah, 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 to qualify for your own Social Security. The tricky part was people were like, wait a minute. Well, how did my grandmother, like one person put, how did my grandmother who never had a job in her life, how does she get Social Security? Well, because it was a single income, she could claim spousal benefit, right?
Yes.
So break that down for us and clear that up from that confusion.
Yeah. So the spousal benefits would be 50% of whatever your working spouse had. So that is something that is available to you if you are a non-working spouse. So that is something that this is why I also talk to people about delaying, because the further you delay, the greater that spousal benefit will be. Right. So this is something that again, we're not going to get too deep in the weeds because we talk about this in other programs, but that is one reason why if you have a single earner, a big breadwinner, if you will, primary breadwinner, you want the other spouse to, you want to delay because the other spouse will then get larger benefits as well at that point. So that's something that we definitely want to consider. We did talk about in other episodes, longevity and health risks and stuff like that. We weren't going to get into that all today.
No, that's fine. But let's clarify the fact that you can get it if you've never worked a job and you are married to someone who did. But there are a couple of caveats. You yourself have to be 62 as the person claiming who never had a job.
Yes.
You have to turn 62 before you can get it, right?
Yes, you have to be 62, and they also have to be claiming Social Security as well. So you can't get it.
The main breadwinner has to, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And it is a reduction, right? At 62, if you turn it on early, even for the spousal versus waiting.
Yes. Okay. It's a reduction forever.
Forever. That's correct.
That's what I tell people, that you're making a deal with the devil when you make that early decision. We talked about a couple episodes back where you can hit the reset button, but there's limitations of just a few months for that one. So once you make that commitment that you're retiring at 62 or 63, that's it. You made the deal with the devil, and you have permanently reduced your benefits forever. So, and
that's pretty much that simple with a single income earner. So there you go. So let's go to dual. That's more households are definitely dual income households. In the modern era. And you kind of already touched on this, and we'll keep this one pretty simple too. You kind of alluded to it. If you got two people working, so my wife and I are 5 years apart, but let's say you're the same age or even 5 years apart, something like that, and something modest. And you got one person making more than the other. A lot of advisors like to see that one person making more, let that joker max to 70 so that you have the spousal benefit options and all that kind of stuff. And then if you need to turn the other one on from the lower income person, then fine, you can look at that. But it's really like looking at your income strategy, right, Coach? Like, what horse are you riding? The horse you built, aka the 401k, or the horse that the government gave you, quote unquote. So it's correct. I know it's our money. Don't send me messages below that it's our. I know that, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Yes. Yeah, you're gonna get all these messages on
it's my money, I want it back. Yes, I know that.
Yes, and I've mentioned this in other episodes. There's a lot of these YouTube videos out there, people saying you got to start at 62. You're an idiot if you don't, and I 100% disagree with them on that. There's just no nuance, no thought going into this. That's again
if whole. If you need it, you need it. That's fine.
That's not what we're talking about. People are saying you have to take it because, again, it's my money and I want to get it back. But you're talking about the nuance between the two earner households. That is something that is one of the typical claiming strategies. Have the lower income person turn it on at 62. It's nice, and then the higher earner turn it on at age 70 and max that out if possible. There's a lot of nuance. I actually go through a whole we do a full analysis on this, and we will give the client a full breakout as to how to maximize. And some people don't even want to maximize, but as long as it's close, they're okay.
Yeah.
So one spouse may turn it on at 67 or 66 and wait rather than 62. But I give them cold hard numbers to determine that. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Well, because I think sometimes, Coach, people think they come to see a professional like yourself and they go, I've got my 401k and the wife's got their 401k and we got maybe, I don't know, a couple little things or whatever. And this is what we're going to use for retirement. And it's like, oh yeah, and Social Security, right? Mm-hmm. And they kind of think about it as this separate thing, but really you want to put this all together and look at it as one cohesive thing. Because like I mentioned before, where are you pulling from first? Does it make more sense to turn on Social Security and not touch your assets as much early on or later on or whatever, right? Also, when you're, what's happening, economically when you go to retire. So there's a lot of factors in that.
Absolutely. And one thing that I like to point out with Social Security, it is, to me, the primary benefit Social Security has is versus longevity risk. That is something that's very real, and Social Security will never run out. I know we think it will run out in 2033, but it'll never run out. They will print the money if they have to. That's a whole different story also, but they're never going to let it collapse. So
somebody's going to watch this video in 2055 and be like, liar.
Yeah. So, but they're not going to let it run out.
No, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to always have that benefit if you live to 110, and you're never going to run out of it. They're always going to have it, and they're going to give you cost of living raises. Again, that's a whole nuance there, whether that's fair or enough or whatever. But they are going to give you cost of living increases based on inflation. So you're going to have increased benefits, and they're going to last forever. So that's why I like the idea of weight, and that's why claiming as late as you can has a super benefit. And then maybe we do take the 401k or the IRAs earlier because you might be doing Roth conversions anyway, or you might do that in substitute of Roth conversions. There's a whole planning cycle here. But again, we have other things we want to get to today, but that's some of the things that we do need to think about when it comes to Social Security. It is a huge benefit. It is.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get to some of those other ones. So special considerations for blended families. So we have a lot of that out there now. So what's some things to think about?
Well, we want to talk about ex-spouses. All my exes live in Texas or whatever. There are some nuances that, believe it or not, a lot of people don't know about. And this is one with the ex-spouse. And so this is something that's pretty important here. I am going to be a little sexist here, and I'm going to use a woman and a man and say that this is a woman who's divorced. She can actually claim her ex-husband's Social Security benefits. There's a couple rules behind this, though.
My mother actually did this. So, and my brother got a little upset thinking that his dad was getting screwed over because we have different dads. And it's like, first of all, they don't know, right? So don't worry about it. And if you're trying to do it because you want to stick it to your ex, they don't know.
They don't know. And they don't. Yeah,
they don't care. Right? It's But go ahead.
Yeah. So your ex-spouse won't even know.
Right.
Because you're applying based on their record. There's a couple of rules here, and I'm going to read off my notes here because it's right in front of me here. You have to be married 10 years.
At least 10 years.
You can't marry your sugar daddy or sugar mama for a couple of years and then assume you're going to get the Social Security benefits. So it has to be a 10-year marriage at least. And then you could be remarried after the age of 60 though. So if you're married 10 years, so you have to be either, I'm kind of butchering this, you have to be unmarried, or if you're remarried, the remarriage has to have occurred after the age of 60. So if you got married.
Oh, really? That's okay. I didn't realize that because they told her when she did it, because she's 80 something, they told her that she could do it because she was married to her first husband for 10 years and she wasn't currently married. So therefore she was eligible. They didn't mention the fact that you could be married and over a certain age.
Yeah. If you got remarried after so it's not that you got remarried at the age of 58 and we're 10 years. It's
after 60.
It's have to be after 60. And then you still have to wait to claim until you're 62. So there's all these weird ages. But the most important thing you need to understand is, yes, you can use your ex-spouse's record to collect Social Security benefits.
And it bumped hers up. So whatever hers was, she wound up getting a little bit more added to what she was getting because they just they just do the difference or whatever. And then you're not getting two checks, just like anything else. You're just getting the one, but it raised her average.
Based on the higher earning records. Yes, exactly. So it's a big benefit. I have ran into people over the years. It doesn't happen often, but I have ran into people who had no idea about this. And so it's super helpful to know. And you can do your own investigation, or you can, again, set up a time to talk to me. I'll be happy to talk to you about it. So
and she loves the fact that I air her laundry on these podcasts. She just thinks it's great. But it's true. And actually, honestly, it's worth mentioning, Coach, that the Social Security person actually talked her through this. They don't typically do that. So let's be honest, right? They're not supposed to do that either. And I'm not going to mention that because of the person's names. I don't want to get them in trouble. But they typically, they're very helpful, but it's like going to the DMV, right? You can get a good person working or not a good person working or whatever the case is. And they're really not supposed to provide you with a lot of information. They're just there to give you what's in front of them, right? That's why you want to talk with an advisor or somebody who does some Social Security work so that you can kind of get a lot of this detailed nuance and get a plan walking in. Then Correct. You can, do what you need to do. Is that accurate?
Yes, and that's a very good point, because I've found the Social Security Administration people actually tend to be very friendly. Whether they're knowledgeable, that's a whole different thing. But they tend to be very friendly, and they do want to help, but they're limited. If you don't, again, we talked about this before. If you don't tell us what is going on in your life, they don't know where to look. So if you go in and you have your spouse's, you're going to need their Social Security number, obviously, and date of birth. But if you go in,
you can't just walk in. You can't walk in and just say this happened. You have to have some documentation, right?
Correct. Yeah. But if you go in and say, hey, I want to be able to claim off my ex's record, they'll at least now know where to look. But if you go in and you don't have any information and you don't tell them that you've been divorced, you don't tell them anything, they're not going to know to look there. They're just not going to know.
John has a couple of free books, Diffuse and Tax-Free Retirement in California, that reveal exactly how you can experience zero taxes in retirement and overcome the IRS lien on your 401k, IRA, and 403b, which could threaten your future lifestyle. These are complimentary, so all you have to do to pick these up 100% free is just stop by RescueMyRetirement.net. That's RescueMyRetirement.net. Fill in the basic info and he'll ship those out to you immediately. That's RescueMyRetirement.net for a copy of Diffuse and Tax-Free Retirement in California.
All right, good stuff. So let's do another one here and then we'll probably wrap it up. So what about what's the difference, Coach, between SSDI and SSI? So let's talk about if you've got a disabled in a family member situation.
Yeah. So those are a couple different things, but the SSDI is for Social Security Disability Insurance, and then the SSI is Supplemental Security Insurance, and that is basically for people that need. So the SSI would be for people that are of lower means that need some help. Mm-hmm. Disability is for people that have had worked and they have been diagnosed with a disability, and that can be there's a lot of nuance even in that area, but
a lot of processing to get that claim done too.
It is very difficult. I actually have an attorney referral that I send people to here in LA that specializes in that, and they have had a great success record, but it still takes about 2 years to get through.
It is lengthy, so it
is very difficult. So there's a couple things here that we want to talk about, and that would be if we have also a disabled adult child. That is something that we can talk about here as well. So I have notes that I've written here, so I'm going to talk about this with when you have if you're on SSDI, you can have other people. If you have dependents, they can also qualify for some Social Security benefits. They have to be your dependent. So there's somebody that's in your household. They also can qualify for additional Social Security benefits. So if you're disabled and you have other people in your household that are relying on you, they can also qualify for some Social Security benefits. Now, there is a family max that you can get up to. So you can't go beyond that. And depending on how they're calculating it, whatever the calculation, it's between 150 and 180% of the primary record holders benefit. Gotcha. So there are some limitations here. So you can't just double and triple based on, oh wait, I've got 8 people living in my household and I'm disabled. Right. We're going to be raking in millions. It doesn't work that way. What happens is if you have several people actually that would qualify in your household, everything gets reduced equally so that they all have a lower benefit amount, but they can qualify for something. So that's something to know about.
Okay.
So other things that people are always curious about also is caregiver benefits. There are a lot of states offer them these days. California will actually pay you, and it is tax-free on your federal return if they give you caregiver benefits. There's
so if you're caring for a disabled loved one.
Yes. Yeah. So that the people that I've actually worked with lose their own child that was disabled. But California will pay. And these were young children. So the benefits have to occur for these to be considered disabled for Social Security purposes before the age of 22. For other benefits, and I'm going to have to look at my notes here for the some other accounts for in the States, they look at age 26. So you're going to have to check out which age will apply here.
State
for Social Security.
Specific, yeah.
States can be a little bit higher. The feds are a little bit lower, but you can qualify for some benefits on that. Okay. One thing to also understand is special needs trust. I wanted to kind of get into this. So if you're going to qualify for some benefits for care, you might want to create a special needs trust, because if you have some assets and the asset level is really, really low. So if you're single and you have more than $2,000 in assets, you actually cannot get SSI. And so you may want to set up a special needs trust to keep your assets below this level, and so you can qualify for those benefits as well. And one last thing I'd like to talk about here is also the ABLE accounts. ABLE accounts are accounts where you can set up kind of like a Roth, where you can contribute to this account and it grows. So you're putting in after-tax dollars, but the dollars will grow tax-free. And when you pull the money out, it'll be tax-free as well. Oh. That is, again, for the benefit of, in the ideal instance, for a disabled adult child. So those are things that you might want to consider. So it is a good account to have if you feel that you have the ability to contribute to it and it can grow. The account still has to be, and this is another weird nuance to it, below $100,000, but still that's a nice little chunk to have for your disabled adult child to be able to access long after you're gone. So
yeah, so I mean, again, clearly there's a lot of nuance to the stuff going on there. So with all these complex scenarios in mind, is there any kind of singular piece of advice that you would kind of give when crafting a strategy just based on whatever's happening in your world?
Well, there's no single strategy, but what I would suggest, if you come to an advisor, let us know all that's happening. So if you have adult children living in your household, or you have dependents in your household, let us know that, because that may affect what your Social Security strategy is. In my client base, I have a few people that are on Social Security disability, 3 or 4, if I'm thinking off the top of my head. So right. They have qualified for that. And one of them does have a child that is in their house that is an adult disabled child. So that child also qualifies for some Social Security. But we have to know that. If we're going to give you good advice, we have to know all that's going on in your life, because a lot of people want to fill out a questionnaire that say, these are my assets. Help me make money. Right. Well, there's a lot more to that. If you want me to help you make money, I need to know all about your life, which kind of gets a little personal at times, but I have to know about this.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a great point. You do have to kind of get into the nuance. You got to get into the weeds. And I think sometimes that's a learning curve for people when they sit down to work with a financial pro, is they're like, aren't you, I just need you to help me with my investments. Well, then what kind of person are you looking for? You might just need a broker, if that's the case, right? But if you're looking for somebody to help you with, taxation and investments and legacy planning and Social Security and, 9 other things, right? Then that's why you got to look for somebody like yourself, Coach.
Correct. They're very well put too, because I have ran across people that are just looking for somebody to help with investments. That's and fine. I get a little flippant with them a little bit. That's not me. And I even tell people, you can probably do that on your own. You probably don't need to hire anybody. But
the technology now, definitely, they're definitely, can allow us to all, kind of do that DIY thing. But and a lot of DIYers learn when they get a little closer to retirement and they start looking at all these other pieces and things we've been talking about, they go, crap. This is maybe A, more complicated, and B, more time than I want to spend on it. I don't really want a second career as my own financial advisor.
Yeah, exactly.
So, if you need one and you need some help, reach out to Coach. Book a chat with John.net. That's bookachatwithjohn.net. You can also go to his main website and learn some more and a lot of good tools, tips, and resources at mearsmoney.com. That's mearsmoney.com. But it's simple just to go to bookachatwithjohn.net. And we'll have the links below anyway, so you can just click on whichever one you want to do. And don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, and the YouTube so that you can catch new episodes when they come out. Ring that notification bell, click the thumbs up, and all that good jazz. And that'll do it. Thanks, Coach, for hanging out. I appreciate you, my friend. I will see you into February,
yes.
and we'll see how it's going. We'll see what you get me for Valentine's Day.
Yes, you'll like it.
We'll catch you next time. You're on Red Zone Retirement Program with Coach John Mears. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Advisory services offered through Mears Money Management, Inc., an RIA registered in the states of California and Texas. California Department of Insurance License number 0685203.